turn off or silence all electronic devices. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the retirement ceremony honoring Chief Master Sergeant Stephen M. Ousley on his 25 years of distinguished service to the United States Air Force and our nation. I'm Ricky Johnson. I'm honored to be your narrator for today's event. Officiating today's ceremony is Lieutenant Colonel Benjamin Simon, Commander of the 319th Civil Engineer Squadron. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the arrival of the official party, the presentation of the colors by the Dyess Honor Guard, the singing of the national anthem by Major Samantha Teague, and the invocation given by Miss Diane Oozley. As a reminder, military members will stand at attention during the singing of the national anthem. Civilian guests are invited to place their hand over their heart.
Present the colors. Colors. Height. Arms. Forward. Arms. Colors. Halt. Present. Arms.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleam, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets regular, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Arms. Colors. Colors turn. March.
Good afternoon. We are Stephen's parents, and we want to thank you for being family and friends to Stephen and his family when we were there. It meant a lot. I thank you for your service, and I am humbled and privileged to be in your presence. Thank you. When they asked me to say a prayer, when Steve graduated basic training, I wrote this prayer as we left the base. So 25 years ago, I'm going to read the same prayer today. Dear Heavenly Father, I know you understand. He left me still my baby, and now he is a man. I can't believe the time has come for him to leave our home. My only hope and comfort is I know he's not alone. Today, as I kiss him on the cheek, watch him slowly walk away, I know that you, Lord, understand the pain that my heart feels this day. But now, as hard as it is for us to separate our ways, I just can't think how long it will be again until we embrace. My sons, I just can't tell you how very proud we are that you chose to serve your country in this land and from afar. Your dad and I tell everyone who comes along our course, our sons, Chris and Steve, serve in the United States Air Force. So during this difficult time that we must be apart, please know there isn't a day that you aren't on your mama's heart. And if for your country you have to bear arms and fight, know that your mama prays from morning till night. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you that you understand, and I commit my son into your loving hands. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Dyess Honor Guard. Thank you, Dyess Honor Guard, Major Teague, and Miss Ousley. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Before we begin today's ceremony, we would like to recognize our honored guests in attendance with us today. Chief Ousley's wife, Brandy Oozley, their daughter and her boyfriend, Chelsea Oozley and Glenn Carver, their son, Senior Airman Tyler Oozley, and their daughter, Jalen Oozley. Chief Ousley's parents, Mike and Diane Oozley. Also joining us today are a few of Chief Ousley's close personal friends, Rick and Michelle Dickey and their kids, Kaylee and Caden, Troy and Delon Grubaugh and their son, Bowen, and one more, Master Sergeant Retired Jacquez Phillips. We would also like to welcome all group and squadron commanders, chiefs, first sergeants, friends of the Oozleys, and finally, the members of the 7th Civil Engineer Squadron. I know Chief Ousley appreciates everyone's friendship and attendance on this special occasion. Thank you for joining us. Today we recognize Chief Master Sergeant Stephen M. Ousley for his many outstanding contributions to the United States Air Force and our nation. He retires after 25 years of exceptional active duty service. Throughout a military career, the member and their family must make many sacrifices and adjustments. Retirement from active duty is one more adjustment. It is a solemn, yet exciting time in a member's career. It is solemn because it is time to remove the Air Force uniform we all wear so proudly. It is exciting because it is also the beginning of a new and unfamiliar chapter. Although Chief Ousley will be retiring from active duty, it will not end his relationship with the world's greatest Air Force. He will now enter our retired community, which also makes large contributions to our country and Air Force. We honor and congratulate one who has given so much of his time and energy in the defense of our great nation. It is now my honor and distinct pleasure to introduce the presiding officer, Lieutenant Colonel Benjamin Simon.
All right, thank you very much. Can you guys hear me in the back? Thumbs up. All right, we'll go with that. So first off, thank you to the 7th Civil Engineer Squadron for hosting me here at Colonel Vermillion. Commanders, chiefs, first sergeants, and lieutenants, thank you very much. And Brandy, Mike, Diane, Chelsea, Tyler, Jaden, Oozley family and friends, this ceremony is for you today. This is an awesome opportunity. Steve, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak here. Huge honor to me. The mentorship and friendship that you've experienced, it truly means a lot. Steve's had a fantastic career. A career that spanned 9 assignments, 7 deployments, numerous individual awards, a career that saved the Air Force over $200,000 through his individual actions, and one where he saved 3 Army's lives as well, during his time as first sergeant. So Steve started his career at RAF Lakenheath. One of the neater things about this was his brother was actually stationed over there in security forces. So he got to start his career with family, actually going over to England and getting to be with family over there. Single airman who went over, nice to have that, nice to have especially in a foreign country. Went over there and he excelled. He got to be part of the first team that went to meets training over in Ramstein. They just stood that up. For a lot of you guys here in the squadron, you're very familiar with meets. Chief got to be part of the first class that went over there and kind of helped set the standard for that training going forward. That was a long time ago. He also got to be part of the Readiness Challenge over there in 2000, where his team ended up with 3 first-place awards. There ended up being a 19-year break in the Readiness Challenge after that point. And ironically, in 2019, he got to go there here with the squadron here at Dyess and took home the Readiness Challenge trophy 19 years later. So, pretty cool. He's also a BTC selection over there, below the zone airman. So he got promoted a little early. His first EPR, pretty impressive, says epitomizes Air Force core values. Pretty good for a first EPR. Don't see that on very many airmen, but very fitting. His first supervisor, Chief Master Sergeant Fred Wall, said that he's the best airman that he's ever had, that he's ever worked with in his entire career. Sorry, no, you're good. Test, maybe that'll work a little better. All right, sorry I'm quiet. Now you can hear. It also said, in that same EPR where it says he epitomizes the Air Force core values, that he selflessly participated in the trick-or-treat program. For those who know Steve, he loves his gummy candy. He was involved in sports, something he's been involved with his whole career. He was the assistant coach for the flag football and softball teams of that unit. And he was the women's softball coach for the Security Forces Squad, which is very interesting. Brother talked him into that. One thing you might not know about Chief, and you might have picked up on from his mom's prayer here, is that he actually is very good at poetry. He's quite the poet, and he has a love for that, so you can see where he gets that from. In fact, right before he went to basic training, he happened to meet one Brandy Ousley, not Oozley at that point, but happened to meet Brandy and decided that he needed to stay in touch and write with her. He kept sending poems the entire time he was at basic training, and as an airman, finally was able to bring her over to England to propose. For those of you who have gone through trying to propose, it can be a little nerve-wracking. And so you got Steve over here, who, he's a plumber. He's used to dealing with a lot of crap, we'll put it that way. And so he's a little nervous there at the park. He's like, I just kind of need that sign. What am I going to do? And as he's getting ready to propose, this dog walks right over and just takes a dump right there. He's like, that's what I needed. We married. So, nothing like being a plumber. Worked out. And going back to that Security Forces women's softball team, so why was he coaching? Well, his wife was playing on the team at that point. And in fact, probably what did you call it? The biggest test of your marriage at that point? Was trying to coach your wife in intramural sports. Not just coaching your wife, but then benching your wife after you talked her into coming out to participate on the team. Way to go. But he survived, and the marriage went well, and in fact, he left England with a wife and 2 kids, Chelsea and Tyler, at that point, and a selection of line number for staff sergeant. During that time, they went over to lodges from there. His NCO career covered lodges, Travis, Maroon, deployments to Iraq, IED, you were at Camp Spiker during that time, and individual awards started coming in bunches at that point. So he was a DG from 7-level school. He was a DG from the NCO Academy, and he was also received the Commandant's Leadership Award while he was there. And of all the things that happened, I think Jaden being born was the biggest accomplishment at that NCO tier time. He had some wonderful, wonderful words written into his EPR, which his mom will appreciate hearing. Living proof of Air Force excellence, first-rate professional, matchless ingenuity, consistently providing mentorship. And the one that I thought was pretty cool, leaders send troops to Staff Sergeant Ousley for guidance and expertise. For those who are familiar with the enlisted force structure, that is the description of a senior NCO for your senior enlisted leaders. That's who actively does that role. And the fact that that was called out as a staff sergeant shows your potential that you had at that point. And they were spot on. He did a number of jobs during that time. He was an Honor Guard NCOIC. He was the Booster Club president. He was a safety and security manager. You ended up being the CE superintendent as a tech sergeant there at Maroon, which is pretty impressive. Sergeant Ewing, you can do it. Great opportunity. He was also a driver for the NASA Mobile Command Post for 3 launches. Pretty random little thing over there at Maroon. And while at Travis, you accomplished an 80% reduction in the RWP, which for those who aren't familiar, that's what preventative maintenance is now replaced. Basically being able to fix things before they break. We struggled with that for a while, but that 80% reduction led to his unit earning the Best Civil Engineer Squadron in AMC award during your time there. Not the first time in your records, but not the only time that you brought a program up significantly. And then you became a senior NCO and decided to become a first sergeant. So you left Maroon, went over to Dover, and right away, just like you did at Travis, 41% increase in sorts training. That's a huge year-to-year increase in that. You went from worst in the AMC to the best in AMC for sorts recordable. First day as a first sergeant, actually, they had an earthquake while he was up in Dover. He was a first sergeant for 3 squadrons at this point, not just one. So he had CE, comm, and contracting. Can you imagine your first day having an earthquake and all of a sudden being like, oh, let's get accountability. This should be fun. And then a week later, Hurricane Irene came and he had to evacuate. Were you ready to be a first sergeant on week 2? But you excelled at it. You were able to make it through there. Got a chance to deploy for a year to LUD and work for General Brown, current Chief of Staff of the Air Force. Got to work for him over there as a first sergeant. General Brown actually selected you to be the first enlisted member to ever speak at the Gulf Cooperation Council, which is a regional international senior officer course. You got to mentor many nations over there in the Gulf course. I think there were 6 different countries that you got to speak on what the enlisted force structure meant and how we developed in the Air Force. First one selected by General Brown. That's pretty awesome. General Brown also said you were a premier senior NCO with high-octane servant leadership. I think that's the best summary that I could come up with. And while you were at Dover, you were also listed as the Wings go-to shirt. Once again, mentoring, getting involved. And for those who know Chief Ousley, first sergeant is really his wheelhouse. This is a guy who loves taking care of people, loves being there to support, mentor, help guide. He did that for 6 years, almost a quarter of your career. You were a first sergeant, and you excelled at it. Not only did he do it for that period of time, he also got promoted as a first sergeant, which is extremely, extremely difficult to do. Basically, top 10% of already a very competitive career field there. He said he had a full head of hair, but if you look at his pictures from when he was an airman, that might be debatable. I can't really talk, sorry. But then, after completing his time as a first sergeant, he got to go be a superintendent at Altus Air Force Base. Came in there, got to work, and helped out with a couple of Air Force level wins. He helped the FSS food support, ended up with the best food support in the Air Force. Not bad. Did a number of jobs, and actually, when they came out, they wanted to check out the bowling alley. And for those who know Chief Ousley, he does like to bowl. So of course, he selflessly volunteered to be out there actually bowling while the team came through, so that it looked like it was an actively used bowling alley. Quite well done. He also invented the Oozley stick. Has anyone here heard of the Oozley stick? Oh, okay, a few people, good. Yeah, you better have. So the Oozley stick is basically an HVAC temperature gauge where it sends remote data in about what the temperature is of the facility. This facility in question happened to be the bowling alley, surprisingly. And so Steve ordered this stick, put it in there, and was tracking temperature and humidity. At one point, because the Oozley stick was so popular, if you Googled it, it would take you to the actual device on Amazon that we had purchased, was the actual Oozley stick. It unfortunately does not work 6 years later. But at one point in life, you were famous on Amazon. Then you came here, you made chief, and you got to come and be a superintendent, a chief in your own squadron here at Dyess. Once again, you developed MAGCOM's #1 ranked training program. Fire Department of the Year, and the Ops Flight of the Year at the match count. Excellent oversight there. And as I mentioned earlier, you guys won the first readiness challenge in 19 years. And we stood that back up. Outstanding. And right in line with Chief of Staff of the Air Force's intent. You've had a great career. You've mentored a lot of people. I've always been appreciative of our friendship, and especially the patience that you have in dealing with people and allowing folks to not just say, thanks, to come to their own conclusions, take the time to process information, and you've been patient with people. You've always had their best interests in mind, and you've done an outstanding, outstanding job. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your friendship.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the presentation of the Meritorious Service Medal to Chief Master Sergeant Ousley and remain standing for the reading of the retirement orders. Attention to order. This is to certify that the President of the United States of America has awarded the Meritorious Service Medal, 7th Oak Leaf Cluster, to Chief Master Sergeant Stephen M. Ousley for outstanding service to the United States as a senior enlisted leader, 7th Civil Engineer Squadron, 7th Mission Support Group, 7th Bomb Wing, Dyess Air Force Base, Texas. During this period, Chief Ousley's leadership drove the command's #1 contingency training program by completing 11,000 training requirements for 243 airmen. This accomplishment was showcased when the unit won the 2020 Readiness Challenge competition, outscoring other teams by over 100 points. Additionally, Chief Ousley enhanced the quality of life of airmen by driving a $48 million dorm renovation project. His efforts led the modernization of 6 dormitories, providing critical updates to 404 dorm rooms. Furthermore, Chief Ousley led the squadron through 2 unprecedented winter storms where he guided his team in preparing over 1,200 facilities for freezing temperatures. His team's preparation and recovery efforts minimized the historic storm's damage and restored America's lift and strike base to fully mission capable in record time. Finally, Chief Ousley filled the group's senior enlisted leader position for 5 months. His leadership guided the new command team and ensured uninterrupted mission support services to 14,100 personnel. The singularly distinctive accomplishments of Chief Ousley culminate a distinguished career in the service of his country and reflect great credit upon himself and the United States Air Force. Attention to orders. Special order number AC-005067, Department of the Air Force, Washington, D.C. Chief Master Sergeant Stephen M. Ousley, effective 30 November 2022. You are relieved from active duty, organization and station of assignment. Retired effective 1 December 2022 per AFI 36-3203 in the grade of Chief Master Sergeant after 25 years, 3 months, and 25 days of service to your country. Proceed to your home of selection by order of the Secretary of the Air Force. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated as we continue with the presentation of the retirement certificates. Certificate of Retirement from the Armed Forces of the United States of America. This is to certify that Chief Master Sergeant Stephen M. Ousley, having served faithfully and honorably, was retired from the United States Air Force on the 1st day of December 2022, signed Colonel Joseph K. Kramer, Commander, 7th Bomb Wing, and General Charles Q. Brown, Jr., Chief of Staff, United States Air Force. Lieutenant Colonel Simon will now present Chief Ousley with a personal letter from our former Commander-in-Chief, George W. Bush, and it reads, Dear Steve, thank you for your service in the United States Armed Forces. I'm proud to have served as your Commander-in-Chief, and I am pleased to join your family, friends, and colleagues in recognizing your career and accomplishments. Throughout history, the dedicated men and women of our military have protected our citizens and preserved the ideals that make our country strong. Their courage and sacrifice have inspired countless people and have helped shape America's character. On behalf of a grateful nation, I thank you for your contributions to our security and to the cause of peace and freedom. Your service, patriotism, and selfless devotion have helped advance the universal hope of liberty at home and around the world. Laura and I send our best wishes for health and happiness in the years ahead. May God bless you, and may God continue to bless America. Sincerely, George W. Bush. Ms. Brandy Ousley, would you please join us on stage? At this time, Lieutenant Colonel Simon will now present Ms. Ousley with a certificate of appreciation, and it reads, "In grateful appreciation, the United States Air Force presents this certificate of recognition to Brandy L. Ousley for the commitment and numerous contributions that made positive impacts to the nation's defense. Thank you for the support which gave strength and purpose to your spouse's service. Signed, Colonel Joseph K. Kramer, Commander, 7th Bomb Wing, and General Charles Q. Brown, Jr., Chief of Staff, United States Air Force." Additionally, on behalf of all Air Force airmen and their families, the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force presents a certificate of appreciation to Ms. Ousley, and it reads, "I join your spouse, family, and friends in thanking you for the numerous contributions and sacrifices you made in support of our United States Air Force. Your dedication gave strength and purpose to your spouse's service in defense of our nation. Signed, Joanne S. Bass, Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force." Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Simon. At this time, Brandy will now pin on her husband's retirement pin, preferably with your fist. If you need help, let me know. Chief Ousley, please wear this pin proudly and on any occasion in which you may represent the Air Force. Chief Ousley's children will now be presented with the Military Child's Medal. Would Chelsea, Tyler, and Jalen please join your parents on stage? The medals read, "Throughout the years of your life, you have made sacrifices and you have served your country just as much as I have done. In your loving way, you quietly shouldered the heavy burden that you were asked to carry. Most of the time, you could not understand why I was not there, but you quietly hid the tears, courageously put on a smile, and defiantly promised that you would support me. You were then, as now, one of the most important parts of my life, and it was your love that enabled you to assure me that what I was doing was important. I missed so many holidays and countless special occasions, while you were left at home to worry while I was on difficult missions. You had to say goodbye to friends when we moved throughout the years, and you had to change schools. Your resilience and self-confidence throughout those frequent moves gave me strength. I am proud of you, for it was your love and support that sustained me in those difficult times. There's no way, in my mind, that I could have been a success in the military without having your support, your understanding, and most importantly, your unquestionable love. Thank you for being there for me." Thank you, Brandy, Chelsea, Tyler, and Jalen. Chief Ousley would now like to present his parents with the Military Parent Medal. Mike and Diane, would you please join your son on stage? The medals read, "The sacrifice the parents of a military member render is beyond compare. As parents, they willingly offer their blessing when the child is compelled to serve their country. If it were not for the military parents, through their child's service, America would not enjoy all the freedoms that exist today." The Military Parent Medal is cast in gold and silver colors, which symbolize how meaningful you are to me Within the gold center is a compass rose depicting the guidance and direction that you have instilled within me. The two-piece laurel leaf wreath shows your constant offering of love and support for the decisions I've made throughout my life. The raised rippled top edging is indicative of the many opportunities you offered to me. There are 4 stars around the lower half of the silver ring, symbolic of your teachings of duty, honor, integrity, and devotion. In the lower center of the outer ring is a shield for your teachings of traditions and respect for our country. The military parent medal is my way of saying you were then, as now, one of my most important parts of my life. It was your understanding, love, and assurance that enabled me to know what I was accomplishing was important. Thank you for being there for me. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Ousley. Chief Ousley, in honor of your retirement today and the many years of wearing the diamond, the Dyess First Sergeants would like to present to you the diamond formation. The origins of the First Sergeant trace back to the 17th century. The Peruvian Army Field Weevil was the first to introduce the First Sergeant. Standing at the top of the non-commissioned officer hierarchy rank, he was the overseer of all the company's enlisted personnel. During the American Revolution, General George Washington recognized the importance of designating an officer whose sole purpose was caring for the people. He chose Peruvian General Friedrich Wilhelm von Steuben for this task. General von Steuben set forth the duties that would become the First Sergeant. To be intimately familiar with the character of every soldier of the company and impress upon them and their minds the indispensable necessity of the strictest obedience. Throughout American history, military leaders have viewed the First Sergeant as the key to the development of a good unit. The order and discipline of the troops, their care and well-being have always been the focal point of the First Sergeant's job. Today, First Sergeant is easily identified by the diamond in the center of their chevron. Much like actual diamonds, a First Sergeant is forged from a life of intense pressure. Like diamonds, First Sergeants can be jagged, a little rough around the edges before being cut and polished, of course. Finally, like real diamonds, First Sergeants are one of the strongest materials known to man. A First Sergeant is indeed one sharp rock. The diamond formation you see before you is a rarity. It is only done on the occasion of a First Sergeant's retirement. Today we honor Chief Ousley, this formation, and the First Sergeant's creed. I am a First Sergeant. My job is people. Everyone is my business. I dedicate my time and energy to their needs, their health, morale, and welfare. I grow in strength by strengthening my people. My job is done in faith. My people build faith. My job is people. Everyone is my business. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, I would like to invite Chief Master Sergeant Stephanie Walker and all chiefs in attendance, both currently serving and those who are retired, to please come up front.
I would like to take a moment to explain to you what you are about to witness. Here in America's premier lift and strike base, the Dyess Chiefs Group has a tradition for our retiring members. The end of trail sculpture has become one of the most recognizable images in the United States. It was sculpted by James Earl Frazier for the San Francisco Exposition of 1915. Frazier struggled with which image would be most appropriate, to depict a vanishing race of fierce warriors, or to depict the transformation of proud, spiritual people into the next century. Since then, many meanings have been assigned to the end of trail sculpture. To us here as chiefs, It is a representation of a weary warrior whose journey is complete and he is returning home to be with his family. To the family, we chiefs are much attuned to the unyielding sacrifices required of the military family. Please know that as we honor Chief Ousley, we honor his family as well. Chief Ousley, we thank your family for their service. Now, every chief present in the room will touch the sculpture, passing it from hand to hand. We do this because Chief Ousley has touched our lives. We are a team of chiefs that rely on and learn from each other as we advance our nation's call and our commander's intent. Before we present the end of trial to Chief Ousley, we have one final tradition. We will remove the warrior's beard and invert it, symbolizing the formal transition between the life of a warrior and what will follow. We call it the end of trails, but in truth it's the beginning of another. There will be another second chapter to this story, and it starts now. Not done. Chief Ousley, as you and your family prepare to take the first steps in your next chapter, please accept our thanks for your steadfast service for our country over the last 25 years. On behalf of the Dyess Chiefs Group, good luck and Godspeed.
Ladies and gentlemen, please direct your attention to the front as Dyess Air Force Base Honor Guard perform a special flag folding ceremony in honor of Chief Master Sergeant Ousley's retirement from active duty. For more than 200 years, the American flag has been the symbol of our nation's unity, as well as a source of pride and inspiration for millions of citizens. Born on June 14, 1777, the Second Continental Congress determined that the flag of the United States be 13 stripes, alternating between 7 red and 6 white, and that the Union be 13 stars, wearing a blue field representing a new constellation. Between 1777 and 1960, the shape and design of the flag evolved into the flag presented before you today. The 13 horizontal stripes represent the original 13 colonies, while the stars represent the 50 states of the Union. The colors of the flag are symbolic as well. Red symbolizes hardiness and valor. White signifies purity and innocence. And blue represents vigilance, perseverance, and justice. Traditionally, a symbol of liberty, the American flag has carried the message of freedom and inspired Americans both at home and abroad. In 1814, Francis Scott Key was so moved at seeing the Stars and Stripes waving after the British shelling of Baltimore's Fort McHenry that he wrote the words to the Star-Spangled Banner. In 1892, the flag inspired Francis Bellamy to write the Pledge of Allegiance, our most famous flag salute and patriotic oath. In July 1969, The American flag was flown in space when Neil Armstrong planted it on the surface of the moon. Today, our flag flies on constellations of Air Force satellites that circle our globe and on the fin flash of our aircraft in harm's way in every corner of the world. Indeed, it flies in the heart of every airman who serves our great nation. The sun never sits on our U.S. Air Force, nor on the flag we so proudly cherish. Since 1776, no generation of Americans has been spared the responsibility of defending freedom. Today's airmen remain committed to preserving the freedom that others won for us for generations to come. By displaying the flag and giving it its distinctive fold, we show respect to the flag and express our gratitude to those individuals who fought and continue to fight for freedom at home and abroad. Since the dawn of the 20th century, airmen have proudly flown the flag in every major conflict on lands around the world. It is their responsibility, our responsibility, to continue to protect and preserve the rights, privileges, and freedoms that we, as Americans, enjoy today. The United States flag represents who we are. It stands for the freedom we all share and the pride and patriotism we feel for our country. We cherish its legacy as a beacon of hope to one and all. Long may it wave. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, Master Sergeant Ewing will present Chief Ousley with his shadow box. Shadow boxes are born of an ancient tradition that is still practiced today, both in the militaries of the world and throughout the civilian sector. The shadow box is laden with items that represent the recipient's service accomplishments and achievements. Thank you, Master Sergeant Ewing. Ladies and gentlemen, we would now like to present Chief Ousley with a few retirement gifts from throughout the squadron. All right, no more script. But before we get started, I think you would agree that you probably wouldn't have had as good of a time or as easy of a time getting to where you're at today without the help from your spouse, Brandy. So first of all, we're going to practice a little chivalry and ask Casey Price to come up and present Miss Oozley with a gift.
On behalf of the key spouses, we want to just send you away with two of the greatest things ever, coffee and the Browns representation. We'll miss you and thank you for all your hard work. Go Browns.
Thank you, Casey. All right, up next from CEI, it's going to be me. So when you first got here, Chief, I was still active. I think I had a retirement date set, but I was still active. I retired, became a normal civilian, well, normal for me, probably crazy for most, but then I got hired as a civilian, DOD civilian. So I've seen your leadership through many different lenses. As a senior NCO, as a civilian, as a friend, and then as a civilian working for DOD. And one thing that I've noticed that the good colonel had touched on as well is you're cool, calm, and collected. You don't freak out, you don't get wound up, and you let the professional, you leave that to Brady. Leave that to the professionals running their sections and you let them do their job. I appreciate that. You also had a really good knack for bringing folks together. And another time that you brought folks together was a bowling team that we had. So I was in Chief's office, and right away I could tell he was pretty competitive. I was like, man, he likes to hunt and fish, and then he started talking to me about trying to put this bowling league together, and I'm like, look at this nerd over here talking about bowling. But deep down I was like, yes, I love bowling. So I couldn't wait. So he put the team together. He had an NCO, senior NCO, civilian officer, and the chief. So he did really good on trying to get everybody, or somebody from each little section. And we had a great time. And speaking of being competitive, I believe you were better than me in the beginning. But how did it end? Do you remember? Did COVID get that part, or do you remember? Oh, he admitted it. But I'll tell you what, it's Steve's day, and I'll admit something for him. We did a lot of fishing together, and, well, we had starved if y'all were waiting on me to catch a damn fish. So luckily Chief was there. He definitely caught more than me. And I think I did more throwing his lures in the water and wasting his gas than I did actually pulling in fish. So I appreciate the help, or else I wouldn't have any fish in my pond right now. But with that, we've seen you do all kinds of great things, like I said, through many different lenses. I appreciate that. We did get you a gift on behalf of CEI. I wanted to get you something that you could use, because I'm sure your I Love Me wall is probably pretty full after all of the assignments and things that you've done. Oh, it's a whole room. He's got all 4 walls. I Love Me room. We got you a gift card to help replace some of the tackle that I had lost. And it was so much I had to ask for friends from CEI to help pitch in, so that's what we got you. But I'll just end with thanks for being an awesome chief. Not an E9, you were a chief. And those in the uniform know what I'm talking about. But more important than that, when you take the uniform off and you're no longer a chief, you're just a badass human, man. And I appreciate it. Okay, up next, Master Sergeant On from Operations Flight.
Okay, so before we present OpStick to the chief, I just wanted to say I was lucky enough to meet Chief very early in my career. I gravitated toward Chief when I first came up to Dyess Air Force Base for prime beef training. And I was lucky enough to meet him there, and then found out we were both getting deployed to Oozley, Kuwait right after the fact. He's been an unbelievable mentor to me. So as I was listening to just like all the things that it takes to be a chief, of all his years of service, I recognized that I was one of those people who was being mentored by him, and how absolutely and truly blessed and lucky I was to have him as early in my career as I have him. He's been an inspiration to me and so many other people, and just feel so lucky and blessed to have had a chance to work with you. So thank you. So John.
Hey, on that note, Chief, from Bob's flight, I present you this. Thank you for your service and leadership. Appreciate it, and hopefully this finds some place on your command cake.
And next up, CE Commander, Lieutenant Colonel Vermillion.
So Christina, tell my wife goes, the difference between a man and a woman wrapping presents, right? So from the very get-go, something out there did not want the two of us working together. The day I took the guide on for the squadron that was a Friday, I think, or Thursday. Saturday he deployed for 6 months and was gone. Then he comes back. I think you were back for about a week, maybe a month or two. Then the group steals him for about 5 months, and then he comes back, and then we're working together for a little bit, and then we got the opportunity to deploy together. And then I get the phone call the day I'm supposed to drive out saying, yeah, you're being canceled, you're not leaving anymore. So then off he goes, and for another few months on his own, and to Holiday. But with that being said, in the time that we did get to spend together, I think we were able to accomplish a lot. His decoration actually, I think, summed that up very well. And we've gone through some difficult times together with the squadron, but a lot more great times with the squadron. You kind of heard Ricky talk about some of the things that he likes to do, and I typically will give a little going away plaque type thing for those that are leaving, but this time I decided to do something a little bit different. We talk about going to see the Marvel movies and everything like that, and in the newcomers briefing, one of his quotes is, "If you think you can outfish me, bring it on." So what we decided to do, and this is from the squadron, and Brandy kind of hit it on the head. So we got you a fishing pole, so you can go out there in Ohio and go fishing, and it's Spider-Man. So we got the Marvel theme going on. But in all seriousness, a lot of people in the squadron got together. We got you a gift card as well, so you can go buy yourself a new reel and rod. And that's what everybody's been saying. Is like, I bet you he uses it. So
Picture bag with a big old bass on it.
there you go. But yeah, you can go get you a new rod reel or a new golf club or whatever you want to do in your retirement. So thank you for everything that you've done for me. I've learned a lot from you, and what you've done for the squadron. As I said, servant leadership, and you really had the airmen's interest at heart in everything that you did and whatnot. So thanks for everything again, and good luck in your retirement
Before we move on, is there anyone else that has a presentation? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I now present Chief Master Sergeant Stephen Ousley, United States Air Force, retired.
Man, I think you're ready for this day, but all these people get up and say nice things about you. Half of it, you're like, I don't think that was me. That might have been somebody else. I don't even know if General Brown knew who I was, to be honest with you, but man. All right. I know I'm the last thing between you guys and a Friday and an open bar, so I will try and keep this short, I promise. Yeah. All right. So yeah, I said today is finally here. I've been to a lot of retirement ceremonies over the past 25 years, and typically this is the point where the old retiree stands up here and gives some kind of words of wisdom, right? Well, I'm not going to do that today. I've had the honor and privilege of working with some amazing people here at Dyess for the past 3 years, and I hope that you've learned something from me during that time. If you haven't gotten anything from me in those past 3 years, I apologize, but I don't think this last 5-minute speech is where you're going to get that. Instead, I would like to take this time to give my thank yous, because I know without a shadow of a doubt, I would not be where I'm at today without a long list of people. So this will go all the way back from my very first supervisors like Fred Wall and Jeremy Kitzhaber, all the way up to the commander I have now. I've worked with some amazing people, and they have taken care of me and shown me what it meant to be an airman. So please bear with me as I go through this list of thank yous, I call it, okay? First off, I have to thank God. I've been through 9 assignments, I think 6 or 7 deployments. I've traveled around the world, driven across the country. You name it, it's happened with all these yahoos here in the front row, most of them. And the most important thing, when I went to MEPS 25 years ago, I had a hot blonde drop me off. And 25 years ago, the hot blonde is in the front row, and she's still by my side. And that alone is a blessing. It doesn't happen a lot in the military, unfortunately. Some of you guys are on your second or third. You call it your trial marriage or whatever you guys call it. I don't know what you call it. Practice marriage, is that what it was? So yeah, truly blessed there. Colonel Jensen, sir, thank you for coming out today. Thanks for coining brandy 3 weeks before me. I will never hear the end of that. 20 years down the road. Remember that time you were group commander? Yeah, so thank you. All kidding aside, I enjoyed the time I worked with the group. With you and the team, I had an amazing time. So just thank you for your leadership and thank you for coming out today. Colonel Vermillion, like you said, we didn't get to work together a lot. I don't know what forces were working against us, but they were pretty strong forces. And unfortunately, we were pulled in different directions. Luckily, I knew when I left, I'm nothing special, despite what everything this guy over here says and everyone else. I'm replaceable just like everyone else. And I knew that. I had amazing teammates behind me that could step up and fill my shoes, and I still do today. Ewing, you got this? And so I was able to do that, but the times we did work together, sir, I appreciate your leadership. I don't know if the men and women of the CE Squadron understand how much you go to bat for them, but you're an amazing commander. And I appreciate everything you've done. To me, I've learned just as much from you, so thank you very much. All right, so this ceremony just didn't happen, right? So I've got to go through my laundry list of thank yous for that, obviously, right? So first, Ricky J. Amazing job. Sometimes I'm worried about putting you behind a microphone because I don't know what you're going to say. But every time, you never fail and you knock it out of the park. So thank you for your help with this. Colonel Simon, thank you very much for coming all this way. I know there was actually nice weather in Grand Forks, which is hard to leave when you got nice weather there. I could have done this in December or something and got you out of some snow. But thank you very much for coming. Your friendship, your leadership, and your kind words. It means a lot for Brandy and I for you to come here, so thank you. All right, Dyess Honor Guard, thank you for what you guys did. I think they took off already, but the presentation of the colors, the flag folding, thank you very much. Major T, National Anthem, I think she left, but she did a phenomenal job, outstanding. My proffer, McWilliams, thank you for stepping up. I know it's never fun to put these blues on, right? You guys know that. And he's been standing up here for an hour, wiggling his toes and bending his knees, hopefully, because I don't want to try and catch him if he goes. But thank you very much. I appreciate it. Sergeant Ewing, he had to get all dressed up for his 8 minutes of glory, or 8 seconds of glory to 5 seconds. But thank you for doing that. It means a lot just to see you throw on your uniform and give me that honor. So thank you very much. PA support, PA's in the back. They go to a lot of these things and they're probably just like, oh, here he goes talking, but thanks, PA. He's on his phone, he's not even listening. Thanks. There he is, he's there, okay. First sergeants, to my diamonds, I appreciate that. I've worked with some phenomenal first sergeants in my days. As you guys heard, I was a prior first sergeant, and I hold that diamond to a higher level, probably more than other senior NCOs, and maybe the chiefs that haven't worn it before do. And I've had some phenomenal shirts. I don't know how I would have been. Luckily, when I was a shirt, I didn't have a chief that was a diamond wearer, so I didn't have to worry about, oh, what's this guy know? Hopefully, I wasn't too intimidating in that. Every shirt I had a conversation saying, look, you're the shirt. I'm done with those days. Like, this is your baby. Like, you need help, come see me. But you guys have a tough job, and you do amazing things for our men and women. So thank you for what you do, and also thank you for the diamond presentation. And then my chiefs, thanks for coming out. To the chiefs that are here, thanks for your presentation. I enjoyed working with you guys. Sometimes it was frustrating trying to get $300 out of the stingy chiefs group. But man, I love you guys. You guys are my counsel, and we lean on each other heavily. Keep doing what you guys are doing, fighting the good fight. Most of you, a couple of you, have dates like this already scheduled, and so congratulations. You'll be here soon enough. Just thanks for your friendship, and thanks for taking care of the airmen here at Dyess. The men and women of the 7th Civil Engineer Squadron, man, I've had an amazing time being your chief. Amazing time. I will tell you, I would not be where I'm at today, and you wouldn't have, all those things that Colonel Simon read never would have happened if not for the amazing teams that I've been a part of. Amazing teams. I was nobody, but I had amazing people working with me, for me, leading me in the right direction, saying, hey, Airman Oozley, go do that. And you guys are a phenomenal team. I thank you so much for what you do. I love going to meetings and just being able to brag about you, or have some other chiefs or someone else come up and say, hey man, your guys killed it. They came out and did this and they killed it. And so I hope you guys know how important you are to this base, how important you are to the Air Force. Thank you very much for what you guys do. Appreciate it. Promise you, I'm getting to the end. All right, so I got some friends that came in today, so I'm going to say a few things to them now. So Jacques, man, I haven't seen you in I don't know how many years, but when we got a weird text message about a week ago, we're like, are you coming to this thing? We were both super thrilled to know that you were coming here, and so I just appreciate it that you take the time to drive out here. It's great to see you. I wish I could have made your retirement ceremony. I'm not sure where I was even at when that happened, but it's just good to see you. And me and Brandon are thrilled that you're here. So I know we're going to hang out later today and go get some great breakfast in the morning. But just awesome to see you here. Thanks so much for coming. Rick and Michelle Dickey and their kids. So Rick and I were first sergeants back in the day at Dover, and luckily we got the wives together and they became friends. I don't know if it was instant friends or how it ended up, but those two clicked, and Rick was my hunting and fishing partner, and we could take care of the airmen's problems during the week and then go get our woo-saw on the weekends as we shot ducks in the face or went fishing or whatever we did. But awesome friends, and Rick, I got to be at your retirement ceremony about 15 months ago. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to grow the beard out like you, but thanks so much for you guys for coming out here. It means a lot. And yeah, we'll party up later too as well. So thank you very much. Troy and Dawn Gruball and Bowen, thanks so much for your guys' friendship. For those of you who don't know, when I got to Lake and Heath in 1997, some of you guys probably weren't even born then. My brother was stationed there. The CE dorms were full, and they said, we're going to have to put you with the cops. And I was like, well, that's cool. My brother's here. He's a cop. And so I went into the same dorm as my brother. I think I was on the second floor on one side. Dropped my bags, instantly went down around the first floor, knocked on his door, and was like, what's up, bro? I'm here. And his roommate was Troy Gruball, Airman Gruball. And so I hung out with a lot of cops. It's weird. I don't know what my connection is with cops, but I seem to get pulled towards them. And we split ways for a long time. And then 2017 or so, 18 in Altus, my brother hits me up and says, you'll never believe who's coming to Altus, Troy Gruball. And so we're all grown now. We were single airmen back then, right? And now we're all grown with families, and our family's been able to connect, and you guys have been amazing friends to us. Thank you so much for making the trip. Me and Brandy really appreciate it, so thank you guys. And then I got Dean Thornton. Dean was my ops deputy, so he's the Mr. Harris for you guys. When the three of us were running the ops flight at Altus, amazing times again. I've been part of just great teams, and I would never be where I'm at today if I didn't have these amazing people working with me and pushing me and making me successful. So Dean, thank you so much for coming out. It really means a lot to me that you made the trip. So, and then Carrie came in from Altus as well. Carrie's a great friend of Brandy and mine, and we just, every time we're either in Altus or she has a chance to come up here and vent for a little bit about the crazy things that are going on in Altus, she makes the trip, and it was just good for you to make the trip and see you up here as well. This is where it gets crazy, because I'm going to talk about my family now, so we'll get through this. Okay, Mom and Dad, I didn't know you were going to bring out some kind of crazy, yeah, that was hard. I was like, I'm going to keep it together, and like the first 5 minutes, I was ready to bawl, but thank you guys for coming. You guys have had a huge impact on our life. My dad is probably the hardest worker I've ever met in my life, the hardest worker. And then my mom is the person who knows no stranger. If you haven't met her yet, before you leave here, you probably will, and you'll know some kind of story about her. That's just their personalities. And the two of them, that's what I watched growing up. And I know that I would not be where I'm at today in the Air Force if I didn't have the hardworking attitude from my dad. And just the passion to take care of airmen. So thank you very much. I have some flowers. I'm going to kind of talk as I walk and give these. I don't think my dad wanted flowers, so I just got some from home. You can share if you want. All right. Next is my oldest daughter, the one who's been bawling her eyes out. So for those of you that have kids, you know the first kid is kind of like a trial run, right? We don't know what we're doing. There's no instructions. We just kind of make things up. We screw up a little bit, right? And usually when you have your first kids, you're younger, you're poor, we can't afford to buy you nice things, sorry. But Chelsea followed us from the very first base to every other base. You talk about being a resilient military child, pulled out of schools, taken away from friends. And although she has marched to her own drum, and doesn't always do what her mother and I say, hey, maybe you should do this. No. I love you so much. I'm proud of you. Me and your mom are proud of you about the woman that you are. So I have some flowers for you. Thank you very much for putting up with us for 25 years. All script here. All right, my son, I know he doesn't want flowers for sure. You guys have heard, senior airman, he enlisted about 3 years ago. He's a calm weenie. If I have any calm guys in here, I'm sorry. But that's what I call him. But he'll probably get out of the Air Force and make more money than me. at the age of 25, which is cool because then I won't have to support him. Same thing for him. He was born in England, traveled, pulled out of schools, taken away from friends, you name it, they did it. And not once did they complain. Kinda? No, maybe? Oh, shoot, yeah. But just the epitome of resiliency. If we can be as resilient as some of our military brats are, as I'll call them that, because I got a couple of them, we can learn a few things from them. So instead of flowers, so I have my own coin. I think it's very rare that a father and son are serving at the same time. And so one of the last coins I give out, I want to give you my coin and say thank you for putting up with your mom for the last 25 years. Super proud of you and your choice to join the Air Force. I didn't think any of my kids would want to serve after, being pulled around and moved and everything else, but you decided to enlist. And I just want you to know that your career is yours. You could do 4 years in the Air Force and get out, or you could do 25 years, 3 months, and 26 days and beat me by 1 day. It doesn't matter. I don't want you to ever feel like you're following in my shadow. This is your career, not mine. And I'm super proud of you and what you've done so far. So here's my coin. Keep giving you a hug. And then you get to the third child, which is usually the spoiled one, as people would say. But maybe it's just because as parents we're like, who cares about this one? Do what you want. And then we also have a little bit more money now, so we can afford to buy them the things that we couldn't buy you. It's just the way it is, right? Again, the epitome of resiliency. My kids moved around school. She made amazing friends. And luckily with today's technology, they still keep up with their friends way easier than we would. But so excited about the woman you've become. You graduated high school this year. You're following us to Ohio. Going to start college this year. And just looking forward to the amazing things you do. Don't start crying. So we're super proud. Thank you for putting up with your mother and I. Last one. This is the biggest bouquet. That was the only requirement. So my wife. So I met my wife my senior year in high school. I was already in the delayed enlistment program. I knew I wanted to join the Air Force. And I met my wife, and I didn't tell her I was leaving for boot camp in a few months. I was supposed to leave in August. We met in February-ish. But I just had to see. I wanted to make sure she wasn't crazy. Maybe this could lead to something. But I fell head over heels for this woman. And anyone that knows Brandy knows the kind of person she is. And so it finally got to a point where I'm like, I got to tell her I'm leaving for boot camp because it's coming up. And so I told her. And just like every young kid in love, I was like, if you tell me right now, I'll go to the recruiters and pull my paperwork. I will stay here in Mansfield, Ohio, and if you don't know where Mansfield, Ohio is, probably good, because there's not a lot there. And I said, I will stay there. I will stay here with you, and we'll ride this out. And she had more brains than I did at the time, and said, you know what, I don't ever want you to resent me. I will be here for you, and I'll wait for you. Go do what you got to do. And so I did that. We did the long-distance relation thing. It worked out, and like I said, 25 years later, I'm still married to you. You're an amazing woman. I know I would not be here without you. So thank you very much for putting up with me. What are you saying? Yes, I Not that bad. But thank you very much. Our original deal was 20 years. I told her 20 years, follow me. And then after that, it's up to you. Well, around 20 years, I was like right about making chief. We were having fun, and we're like, let's do 5 more. We renegotiated. I think I upgraded your ring or something. It costed some money. And then next thing you know, 5 more years was done, and here before you know it. And so, if I could give any kind of wisdom to you guys here, someday you're going to take this uniform off. And whether or not there's family on this side of the room and in this front row when you do that, depends a lot on how much time you give back to them. I've seen people that have given 100% of their time to their family, and at their retirement, there's nobody sitting here waiting for them. And so you got to have that balance. I don't know if I always had that balance, maybe not as assured, but I tried to be there for the family and do what I needed to do in between deployments and crazy hours. But thank you so much for putting up with me. I love you very much. I cannot wait to start this next chapter of our life in Ohio. So I love you and thank you very much. All right, I have to look at my script now. Whew. Open bar. All right, almost done. So I know I probably missed some people. I've got a ton of people probably watching on Facebook, YouTube, whatever it's on there. And there's people in this room. I do not want to go through and list names, but I also don't want anyone to feel left out. So I kind of have like this car commercial thank you, so just bear with me as I read this. To all those that I thanked in this speech, let me start over. All those thanked in this speech, or those I chose, I could possibly think of at the time I prepared this speech. Any people that I did not thank but are deserving of the thanks are now hereby formally thanked. And I take responsibility for those I forgot to thank, and I'm deeply sorry for my omission of thanks. The omission of thanks does not represent the true intentions and thankfulness towards the thanks, and anyone else I should forget to thank, please accept my heartfelt thanks. So thank you. All joking aside, this is it, 25 years. My Air Force career is about to come to an end. And I can honestly say that I'm ready. I'm ready for the next chapter of my life. I can't wait to see what's in store for the Oozley family as we make this transition into civilian life. I've absolutely loved every moment of my military career, and I wouldn't change any of it because all the ups and downs throughout my career have made me the person, the leader, the son, the brother, the husband, and the father that I am today. This ceremony was amazing, and I'm truly humbled by everyone that came out to celebrate this day with me. I couldn't think of a better way to end my Air Force career. So please stick around afterwards, enjoy some cake, some amazing punch that my wife found on TikTok, Pinterest, and most importantly, an open bar. So thank you everyone, and God bless.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the departure of the official party. This concludes today's ceremony. Please congratulate retired Chief Master Sergeant Ousley at the back of the room and stick around for some cake and a beverage of your choice. Have a great weekend.